D14. So I had a little audio problem at the beginning. So what we did was students worked on their Linux secured environment, and then I talked a little bit about distribution of the information, writing scripts, abstract, having something at the beginning that explains what it is. I mean, explains what the whole project is. Like, you got your name, date, and stuff up here, and then you have that abstract, and then you have the information down here. Making sure you're testing it from outside sources, and just the whole idea of including text, paragraph form, use your composition skills, and where you should be able to write, you should be able to communicate technologically, speaking, and listen. So in this case, you're working on your writing skills that you should learn in communications class to make sure the document flows. Then, so we had two things to do. Do that, and then look at the individual security plan and read the comments. And then for that, today, you added the policy and the compliance or enforcement for that. Then here, okay, we talked about some Palo Alto information. At least, that's one resource that we should be working on, should be doing that. In terms of the students looked up perimeter-based and then zero trust. So this side over here, we talked about perimeter-based, okay? Users in the middle and some protection around the perimeter of the users. We talk a little bit about the edge from the untrusted to the trusted environments. And the students gave the example like a firewall, VPN, access into the firewall. Once you're in, you can do what you want on the internal network, or so to speak, at least what you have rights or privileges to. Attack from the outside. We have a problem once people are on the inside. If there isn't security within there, we run into problems. We do create things like intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems. Like a intrusion prevention system, if we identify an issue, if we get a false positive, that means positive means we have an issue, but we really don't because it's false. Then we're stopping legit traffic. Now, of course, it's worse if we're not stopping bad traffic, but somewhere there's a mix. So what we learned a little more about today is zero trust. No trust inside and outside. Typically we create some kind of zones, segmentation of our information. We're going to learn about VLANs and routing in terms of segmentation, classifying data, putting it into segments or zones, information that we can't let out, that's secured. We authenticate, work with least privilege. And there was a good definition at Cloudflare. And we've talked about this before. So we finished up, we talked about the security plan. You need to add policies and compliance. Make sure if you're mentioning things inside the plan that you might have to define some things, or if you make reference to different parts, make sure they exist. Talk a little bit about email, talk a little bit about disposal. Like an example, what do you do with emails? Do you keep them forever, delete them, whatever? And I thought it was good. This is a real plus. The plans are fairly unique to the users, even though they looked at templates and got some source. And what we looked at today was the scope. And you really need to look at that and be careful. Okay, for example, we talked about a library, and they talked about users, or, well, is that people that work at the library? Well, then we have employees. Well, then they said the users have to be worried about passwords, even though anytime I've been in the library, I don't have to worry about passwords at the library. I do about other resources I'm going into. So as you identify, you know, who your users, you know, who the scope of the users or of the people are going to access the technology and what pieces of technology they're accessing, make sure the policy applies. Okay? Like, guest accounts don't worry about checking the antivirus to see if it's available. Okay? So, finish this wrap. Then we had the example. Somebody gave the school example. Well, that's in the cloud, so some of the security is being taken care of in the cloud. And you have to figure that out. But Google takes care of the passwords, right? You don't locally need to take care of those. They're taken care of in Google. Which things you take care of locally and which ones not. Again, I talked about composition classes, how you organize the material, making main topics and subtopics underneath there to make sure the document flows and is easy to read. And yeah, and make sure you have some type of either peer review or somebody for the business you're working on. Maybe there's somebody at the business that can look through your information and see what you think. Make sure it's logical and it flows. And I need to know who that is. So somewhere you have to have it in your document. Okay, wrap things up tomorrow.